morning. It is Sunday morning in early November, and we are having what I would call a rough start to the day. If you can hear my voice is all fucked, that's because when you start the morning with like copious amounts of vomiting, you sound like this. Small tally of how we're doing this morning. Kiddo's head is wedged in my pelvis. It hurts a lot. I also thought I had avoided puking this morning, and then I had what they call in professional eating circles a reversal of fortune. So plans. It's actually wildly warm out today. It's like 70 degrees in November, which is kind of unheard of on the East Coast in the Northern Hemisphere. So my plan is I'm going to make breakfast, slap on my headphones, and I'm going to listen to an audiobook of Still Lives by, I think her name is Maria Hummel? Probably not. That was a book recommended to me by my real life bookish friend, Chelsea. It's the second to last book that she recommended to me in our Not a Book Club, where we just got on a soapbox and recommended books to each other for like an hour and a half each. It's a thriller, it's a mystery, but yeah, I think I'm going to slap my headphones on, listen to that book for a little while, eat some breakfast, and get to work on getting rid of the garden. So we made progress. I had breakfast. I still feel very nauseous, but I did have a great idea to get Kiddo to move their head because it was very painful. I ate a bunch of cocktail cherries, like maraschino cherries, because they're very sugary, and that woke the kid up. They liked it a lot. They kicked around, did a couple flips. Now we're a lot more comfortable parenting. I'm gonna keep listening to my audiobook, and I'm gonna go clean up the garden. Pack it all away, because even though it is 70 degrees out today, it is going to be freezing later this week, and I will not want to put it away when it is cold. Alright, it is now the evening, and I have managed to finish Still Lives. As I said, it was a recommendation from Chelsea, who has never steered me wrong, and I was a little worried this time because it was a very, very slow burn. So basically it's about a very famous artist, young female artist, whose whole shows and stuff she's presenting are on, like, she portrays herself as famous murdered women, and it's supposed to have everything to do with like the commodification and fixation with tragic murdered women, things like that, and the kind of cult status that they endure in LA. Kim Lord goes missing. The main character, Maggie's ex-boyfriend, who is Kim Lord's current boyfriend, Greg, is the chief suspect. We don't know where Kim Lord is. We don't know where she's gone, if she's alive or dead. And our main protagonist has to solve the mystery. And then it really fixates on the LA art scene, which I found less interesting. Tremendously slow burn. Nothing really happens plot-wise for the first half of this book. And so I was really worried because I was pretty bored. And then I got halfway through the book, and then it started paying off, and it really picked up and got a lot more interesting. It wound up being like a 4-star thriller, and it is the first book that I read for the Bloomin Readathon. This is my bingo board because I am participating in the Bloomin Readathon this November because I'm not going to read a ton of books. My goal is to get a bingo and also to count books for many squares because that is probably the only way that I will achieve a bingo. So first things first, I am checking off the free square. Thank you for that one. Really appreciate it. Love a free square. I think that this book definitely would qualify for the squares of Spider. It has dark themes, it's slightly horrifying. I think I also can get credit for Lily, which is a book that covers grief and death. There's a lot of death in this, and there's a lot of fixation on dying and murder, so I think I can get away with that. And I'm also going to claim the snail space, which is for a slow burn, because this was definitely a very slow burn, and if it had not been recommended to me by my favorite bookworm, I might not have read it. It was a good book though. If you're interested by like the art scene of LA and that kind of world, I bet you would find this super freaking interesting. I was just in it for the thriller, which picked up about halfway through. First one done. And I don't know what I'm gonna read next. We're gonna see what is available at the library / what I wanna read. Hey buddy. Next. Good morning. We are just waiting for the car to warm up today. Over the weekend and the last few days, it's been 70 degrees. This morning, it is 40. And now it's fall again. Anyway, while we're waiting for the car to warm up, I listened to audiobooks on the way to work, and I have picked out the next one on the great November TBR, Bloomin Readathon. I've started reading Stardust by Neil Gaiman. I don't really know how to say his last name. I'm just gonna edit out whichever one is not correct. It's probably one of my favorite movies ever. It's just a great, fantastical little fantasy story. So I heard a lot of people like the movie more than they like the book. So we shall see. But it's gonna be a busy day. I gotta get off to work. I'm gonna go vote before I go home. And I'm gonna see maybe if I can finish this book today or tomorrow. I voted. It's now 11 hours later. I am in the post-shift level of beautifulness. It was a full moon last night, and anyone who works in healthcare will tell you that even if you're not a superstitious person, the shifts you have on or after full moons are a wild ride, y'all. They're a wild ride. I'm about halfway through Stardust. I think a little over halfway. It's getting really good. The witch has them in a trap. So I am gonna go in. I'm gonna take a nice hot bath, maybe finish up Stardust tonight. We shall see. So we've had kind of a productive morning. This is unstable. Not just mentally, precarious. So we've had a productive morning. I had to take my car in for some auto repairs. It needed a new oil change, and also it needed a new battery because even though the car was starting fine, there was so much like acid corroding on the top of it. The mechanics had been laughing pretty hard at it every time they opened the hood of the car for about a year. That's done. And then I don't know if you've seen, this is my cute hat. I had my birthday recently, and my husband bought a couple of things from my wish list because he is very sweet. And one of them was this little maroon hat, which matches my yellow one. So now I have two hats that I love and I will wear incessantly. And it is now winter because even though it was 70 degrees 2 days ago and I had the AC running, it is now 34 degrees outside. East Coast winter. But in addition to this cute ass hat, he bought me a couple of books from my wish list because sometimes you can't find books for free. One of them I started reading this morning, which was Lonely Castle in the Mirror. I'm already kind of in love with, okay? It's about a junior high aged girl named Kokoro who lives in Japan, and it seems like she has undergone some bullying at her junior high school, and she no longer goes to school until one day she puts her hand on the mirror in her bedroom, which has started to glow, and she's transported into a castle with 7 other kids who are about her age, and they're tasked with trying to find a key to a room that unlocks one wish. It's really good so far. I'm about 75 pages in, and I made that dent at the Starbucks while waiting for my car to get repaired. I've got probably an hour left in Stardust, which I'm excited about, and then we can cross a few more spaces on the bingo board. But also, the last book arrived. This is the last birthday gift from my husband, so we're gonna unpack that now. Please hold. He bought me Legends and Lattes. I was so excited. It's apparently a soft fantasy book about 2 young women in essentially like D&D world who run a coffee shop, and it's full of very low stakes things like completing orders correctly and making really nice lattes. And apparently it has a queer romance, and I'm really friggin' excited about it. And it's also a softcover and pretty small. So my plan is to take this book with me when my husband and I go on our baby moon. We're going to Iceland in the middle of November. And on that cliffhanger, there are like 18 leaf blowers going on outside. I'm gonna stop attempting to record audio. I'm gonna go do chores. I'm gonna water plants. I'm gonna read my audiobook. I'm gonna organize shit. And oh my God, it's so loud. Alright, it's a few hours later. We're wearing our comfy ass sweats because that's what life is now. And I finished Stardust. And I gotta say that I don't really understand why people kind of hate on the book more than the movie. Like, I know a lot of people love the movie, myself included. Stardust is still a fairy tale. It's about a boy named Tristan Thorne who sees a star fall on the other side of the wall in the land of fairy, and he goes to retrieve it to win over the supposed love of his life, Victoria. But when a star falls in fairy, it's not a lump of metallic pitted rock, it's just a person, which in this case is a very crotchety young lady who is not at all interested in being dragged across a wall for a wannabe girlfriend. The movie keeps to a lot of the same beats of the book. However, I think that in its essence, the book is more a fairy tale about adventure. The movie is more a fairy tale about love. I think if the part you love the most about Stardust is the romance, then you'll be disappointed with the book. I also think that the movie does a really good job of completing character arcs very dramatically, whereas I think the endings to the book and to the characters' stories in the novel are more of a softer, gentle landing. I like both. I'm giving this book 5 stars. I have to cross out a couple more spaces. I think I'm gonna check off 2 prompts for Stardust. The first one is going to be the propagation space. The propagation space is just a book that has adaptations. So in this case, Stardust has the movie. The second prompt I'm gonna check off is gonna be a book with a strong antagonist, because I do think the evil witch is a really good villain. Hard evil antagonist. There's not a lot redeemable about her. There's a lot of throat cutting and unicorn stabbing, okay? She's not a good lady. It may look like I'm close to a bingo, but I have no plan. And I don't think I have books that are going to meet some of these prompts at all. So, winging it. I'm gonna keep reading Lonely Castle in the Mirror because it's great, and then I am probably gonna have to pick out a new audiobook. To be continued. It's a few days later. I finally finished Lonely Castle in the Mirror, and it was really, really good. I wouldn't call it an instant favorite. I know that some people who read this, it's like their favorite book they've ever read. It's not my favorite book I've ever read, but I do think it was excellent. I thought it was going to focus more on the mystery elements of like finding the key in the castle, and it's really not. It's really more about the 7 children who are in the castle unraveling the stories of their own bullying and isolation and becoming friends. I will say the last quarter of this book is the part that really shines. The author does an excellent job of wrapping up all the little loose ends extremely neatly in a way that doesn't feel trite or forced, and it just is so satisfying. It's such a satisfying ending, and I feel like I haven't had that in a while with a book. So excellent book, and I can definitely check off a few squares on the bingo board. I'm going to check off the B square, which is a book on your shelf that has a lot of buzz. Lonely Castle has been on my TBR for a literal year because a lot of booktubers that I like and enjoy have been recommending it. So it definitely ticks the B square for me. I'm going to give the Moon square also a tick. That is a book that takes place in a country outside of the one that you are from. This book takes place in Japan, and I live in the US. So I am going to give that a check. And then I'm also going to check The Daffodil Square, which is a book about friendship, aka non-romantic love. And this is definitely a book about friendship. I don't have a bingo yet. I don't have a plan. I don't know what's happening. I'm not sure what I'm going to read next. I do have like a romance checked out from the library, and that is a pho love story, which just seems like cute and fluff, and I wanted something to listen to while I was doing chores in the house. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep reading it yet. We shall see where the mood takes us. To be continued. I'm back! The very last souvenir I decided to bring home was an epic cold from Iceland. So if I sound unwell and I look unwell, that's because I am unwell. So anyway, I just got back from Iceland. I had a wonderful time. I'm hoping to make a little travel vlog about Iceland because I wound up shooting a bunch of video and it was really fun. Great country to go visit. I had a wonderful time on my baby moon. And I also read a bunch of books while I was there. I was only there, I think, like 5 or 6 days, and I read 3 whole books. The last books of my Bloomin Readathon. This is what I was able to finish in the last few days of November. And we're gonna see if I achieved any bingos on the bingo board. Pay no attention to how badly I want this. Definitely normal, don't worry about it. So the first book I finished in Iceland was a romance that I kept starting and stopping. A pho love story by Luan Le. Pretty sure I'm saying that right because I looked at her author pronunciation guide on her page. I love it when people do that. It's a YA contemporary romance about 2 teenagers who work at competing family pho restaurants. Very Romeo and Juliet. And their families have a deeper rift than just having competing pho restaurants. Look, it's cute, it's slow, it's fine. I'm happy I finished it because I really didn't think I was going to. It's just kind of slow. It's not a lot of spice, pretty spice free. Most of the spice comes from the food descriptions in the book. Mostly this book just made me hungry and want pho. It was great to see a YA romance that featured 2 Vietnamese main characters, as well as getting to read a YA romance by a POC author. However, it was still slow. I'm calling it a 3-star read. So I really thought I was gonna get the succulent space out of this because the succulent space is a book that makes you hot. I thought this was gonna have spice. I thought I was gonna have heat. There's no spice. The only spice in it is giving some unrealistic expectations for first kisses. Kids, they're never good. You're gonna bang teeth and it's gonna be wet and it's gonna be weird. It's never how they write it in the books. So I wound up only being able to cross off 1 space from this, which is the tulip space, which is a book featuring love or one you predict you'll love. This was a romance. I'm taking that space. I was more attracted to the pho in this book, but whatever. The next book I read was Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree, which what a gift this fucking book is. And I love this book so much. This book, it lets the light in. All you want is for Viv to decorate her cute ass coffee shop and have a successful business and maybe fall in love with one of her coworkers. So the premise of this is that Viv, this gal right here, she is an orc, and she has been an adventurer questing around the world. And she's getting tired, and she's got some money, she's got some back pain. Sister, I relate. Until one day she stumbles upon the gnomish beverage, coffee. All of a sudden she starts to come up with an idea to put all those years of questing and gold and plunder to a use that might actually make her happy, which is to open her own coffee shop, small business in a town that has never heard of coffee, and it's the best. If you know me in real life, you'll know that I actually do play some D&D, courtesy of meeting 2 very awesome and exceptional friends. Hello, Rachel and Kevin, who watch this channel sometimes, although their tiny kiddo doesn't anymore, because I swear, I really like words that rhyme with duck. So I started playing D&D a few years ago. I highly empathize with this book because I usually play a fighter. Like, this is who I am. I just want to whack shit with swords. And I fully remember having like a 2-hour side quest possibly 3 hours, where I try to make my fighter character fall in love and essentially go on a romance quest with a Jarl who's like a fancy nobleman. And it was really bad because I had like no charisma because I was a fighter. I seem to remember some really bad dancing, some bad romancing. Also possibly eating dinner with like a cursed sword because I couldn't put it down, so I was using like a fork and a broadsword to cut dinner. But anyway, my friends put up with all this nonsense because it entertained me, and I'm just saying I understand the need for the side quest. And that's kind of all this is. This is the dream of all side quests. Sometimes you gotta follow your dreams, that's all I'm saying. Other favorite characters in this include Tandri, who is a succubus. That's her. She is the barista in training and also Viv's love interest. And she's just there trying to make like cute chalk art and stuff. Also Thimble, who's the ratkin baker, which is kind of like a mouse creature. He is the most OP character in this whole book. He essentially invents cinnamon rolls, refrigeration, biscotti, and pan au chocolat. He only rolls 20s in the kitchen, if you know what I'm saying. You should bring him on your quest. Viv's business is not successful without Thimble. But what a book. Give it all the stars. This put my heart in such a lovely, happy place, and this was one of the most delightful things that I've read in a while. Will probably be in contention for one of my favorite books this year. So, what can we cross off from Legends and Lattes? I'm going to cross off Sun. This is, without a doubt, a very happy book. It warms the cockles of my damn cold, dead heart. I'm also going to give it The Fertilizer Space, which is a book that nourishes my soul because it fucking did. I'm going to give it The Green Carnation Space because this features LGBTQ romance. And I'm also gonna give this book The Ivy Space. The Ivy Space is the highest rated book you have on your shelf. And on Goodreads, this book has a rating of 4.51 stars out of 5, which is, I think, the highest or second highest out of all the books that I have listed on Goodreads. So I think that counts. People love this shit. All right, with one book to go, I still have absolutely no fucking bingos. Let's see if we get there with the last book. Come on, you bingo bitch, let's go. This is why small children are not allowed to watch my channel. So the last book I read in November was actually an impulse purchase that I bought in Iceland. It's called The Sagas and Shit, Icelandic Literature Crudely Abridged by Grayson Del Faro. I saw this in a tourist trap and I paid too much money for it. If you're like me, you probably know a little bit about Norse mythology, Loki and Odin and Thor, and maybe some of the myths associated with them. I was not aware with the sagas, which are basically the Icelandic version of mythology and Shakespearean literature. It's classic Icelandic literature. Some fantastical, some more rooted in like historical context. I'd never heard of them, and basically everything I know about Icelandic literature you could fit into a tablespoon, so I was like, this seems like an idea. I like learning things, and it's small. Let's have at it. And yes, it has a very crude title and a very crude drawing on the cover. It just continues. Basically, the sagas are long and confusing classical Icelandic writing. This lovely person with a master's degree in Old Norse just abridges them with a machete and a bunch of dick jokes, and it's so worth it. It's so fucking worth it. It's distinctly extremely lowbrow, but it did make me laugh. My favorite saga included something called The Cloak of Sluttiness, by the way. It was an extremely quick read. I think it took me like an hour or two to read. I read it on the plane ride back. It was fun and funny and entertaining, and I think it's one of those things that sparks my interest in maybe reading a full saga, and I think that anything that inspires you to do that is a worthwhile read. So, what squares can we cross off? And please God, can I have a bingo? I'm gonna cross off The Cacti Space, which is a non-needy read. Often an anthology, a book that has fewer pages. Most of the sagas that are in this book are distilled into just a few pages. Like most of them are 5 to 10 pages or less. And it was definitely an easy read, definitely easy to get through, despite the fact that the density of unpronounceable Icelandic names is quite thick. I'm gonna cross off The Variegated Space, and this is my first bingo. Woo! Woo fucking him! The Variegated Space is a rare book. Since this book only has 63 ratings on Goodreads, which is the second lowest of every book I've ever read or rated on Goodreads, I think this counts as a rare book. I don't think this is the hot ticket item. I don't think anyone who you've ever spoken to has read this book, so you're welcome for that. Crossing off the variegated space actually got me 2 bingos. I got a vertical. I got a horizontal. Ya bitch is happy. I do have one less space that I'm gonna cross off, which is gonna be Earth. I don't think this actually gets me anything, but that's fine. The Earth space is a book that is published before or takes place before 1990. And since most of this is set in medieval Icelandic times, I feel like that counts, so I'm gonna say it counts. And that's it. That is my bingo board for the month of November. Woo! I got 2 bingos. I wish I could get more because I'm greedy. Oh wait, I got 3! I really need a different pen for this. I got the diagonal upwards space. So I got 3 whole bingos reading 6 books in the month of November. This was so much fun. Normally I'm not big into the readathons because, well, I do enjoy making lists. Usually what happens is the books that I assign myself to read, I just have no interest in reading. For example, I really thought I was going to get a bingo a lot sooner because I was going to read a nonfiction book, which would have gotten me a couple spaces really freaking easy. And I spent all month not reading that book because I was not interested in it at all. And now I'm reading it because now my interest is piqued. This is very low-key. I like that it takes place over the course of a month. The prompts are fun. It's a great readathon. If you're like me, you don't have to read, 30 books in order to get a couple bingos. So that's it. That's the Bloomin Readathon. I have achieved my goals. How was your November? Did you participate in any readathons? Did you do nonfiction November? But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the reading vlogs. That's it. I will see you in a week. Hopefully there will be another video in a week. We're gonna see how much snot I continue to make in the next 7 days, and that will determine if there's a video in another week. Thank you to all the lovely comments that people wrote on my most recent video announcing the fact that I was both pregnant and miserable. People have been really supportive and nice, and yeah, I appreciate it. So thanks for the empathy, thanks for the sympathy, and I will see you all next week. Bye!